I'd like to call to order May 7th, 2024, Columbia Borough Council Workshop. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilperson Zink.
Here.
Councilperson Kaufman.
Here.
Councilperson Stahl.
Here.
Councilperson Fisher. Here. Councilperson Price. Councilperson Murphy. Councilperson Brigard.
Here.
Mayor Litt.
Here.
All right. Would anybody care to offer an invocation? If you would like, please rise for a moment of silence. I will just lead it tonight because I didn't learn that. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Announcement of executive and information sessions. We had an executive session on April 25th at the conclusion of the meeting to discuss personnel issues. Additions, deletions, or reorganization of the agenda. I had a request to swap items 9A and B so we can do the discussion on the 3E task force first. Does anyone have any problems with that? Is there any other changes anyone would like to make? Could I have a motion to approve the reorganized agenda?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl, to approve the agenda as published. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Citizen comments, non-agenda items only. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Yes. No, but that's okay. I'm not concerned about it.
I think we have a few, so.
Okay.
Thanks, Sharon.
Sure.
The first item we have is Sharon Littner.
I have a couple of questions, but my first one, when I was walking this morning, a resident stopped me and told me the agenda was not published for us this evening. So I looked and it was not there. But then about, I don't know, I'll say an hour later it appeared. But that still doesn't fall within the 24-hour time period. So I wondered why the meeting would not have had.
So it was on there when I posted it. I forgot to put the date, so it didn't show up on the date. So I had to move it around quick, and I went in. Eric told me, so I went and put the date on so it would show up in the right slot. I did it Thursday when I posted it, but I missed the date. I apologize for that.
I didn't see anything. I looked everywhere.
Yeah, I had to go back and correct it. I apologize.
All right, and my other question was, going back to the meeting the night before the election, November 6th, about the homeless situation. I was wondering, the council president talked about the Columbia Connections group that meets to discuss the issue of homelessness. And I wanted to ask when the last meeting was held for that group.
That was just recently, and I wasn't there.
I think 2 weeks ago
Do you remember, Barb?
I was there. It was,
2 weeks.
or last week.
I think it was last Thursday. They meet quarterly on a Thursday.
Okay, and there's someone from the homeless shelter there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the other question I had was, I wanted to know, since it is a community problem, the whole thing, and I just wanted to know if all of the council people have been in the temporary shelter to see that operation. Because I think it's very important that council people see what's going on inside that building and have a good understanding of it. So I hope that everybody has toured it with the professor, and I'm sure he'd welcome anybody who wanted to see it to come. I know recently Frank went, and you toured the shelter recently, the temporary one. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next item we have is Alice Yoder. And I forgot to announce, we have the county commissioner with us this evening.
Well, thank you. Next time I'll let you know I'm coming, if that would be helpful.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Is it okay? Yeah, I figured you might have some questions for me as well. Let me answer any questions you have. But I wanted to get here before 3 months, and I wasn't able to make that happen. I'm a little over my 3 months as county commissioner, as a county commissioner, so I just wanted to come by and see you all, because I had the evening open, and it's only like my 3rd one this week, so we're gonna be this week, so it was great. So anyway, I just wanted to come by, introduce myself for those of you that don't know me that well. I am honored to be your new county commissioner, just started in January. My background is I'm a nurse, a hospital administrator for 35 years with Lancaster General, and have really worked closely, particularly with the Columbia community for many years. A lot of why I wanted to be a county commissioner has happened over a period of time as a nurse and a hospital person, but realizing how much of what is related to good health and keeping people healthy and having thriving communities happens in the community and in the county. That's a big piece of why I ran. Also, I grew up, I've been living in Lancaster County for 36 years, but I grew up in the projects of Queens, New York. So that experience for me has really shaped a lot of the way I think about the role of government, what makes people healthy, and how do we help particularly people that are less fortunate than we are. So that's a lot of what drives me. So anyway, with that, I feel like I'm able to hit the ground running a little bit, learning a lot, learning how to get things done in government, which is a little different than hospital, but not too much, but a little different. So I'm trying to learn more so. Probably I have the most difficult time around conversations and collaboration in the Sunshine Law, which I'm sure you all experts at it by now, but at first it's really difficult to think, there's 3 of us, so 2 of us can't have a conversation about an idea. So that's probably been my biggest sort of learning that I've had so far and trying to adjust to that. A couple of things that I'm really excited about. One of the main reasons I ran for county commissioner is the whole idea about a new prison being built. It's, opportunity of a lifetime for us to really create a facility that's focused on rehabilitation rather than punishment. Certainly for heinous crimes, we have a way to make sure that the community is safe with those individuals, but with the new jail, how can we really look at the population that's in the prison right now, and how do we build a jail that can really support a lot of those individuals, which, somewhere around 60 to 70% are either substance use disorder or mental health issues or co-occurring. So there's a lot of really good work being done already in the prison that we have, but the facility itself is just not adequate enough to do that type of programming and have those services available for people. In the new space, we'll be able to look at how we can do that better than what we're able to do now. So I'm really excited about that. Would love, if you wanted to meet with me and discuss some of the ideas related to it. So currently where that project is that the design project design narrative is on the website. It's the Lancaster County Correctional Facility. If you go to that website, it'll have the plan there, and it's now with the architects. So the architects are now looking at a few drafts of what the physical facility would look like, and it's going back and forth with the prison staff and a few others. We're tweaking some things, and we're hoping it should be able to come public around June or July. So it should be in the summer. You should be able to get a first look at what we're thinking about from that standpoint. Lots of opportunities there. And with that too, there's been some work on the court side. I think, I realized how much of county commissioners are responsible for the prison, but the size of the prison, the number of inmates in there have a lot to do with what's going on the court side. And we have no oversight. Remember, it's separate equal government, but we have no say over what they're doing on that side. But a lot of the work that and system changes that they might be able to make will really have an impact on the size of the facility. We already felt comfortable taking it from the consultants were thinking based on the data that they plugged in, about 1,200 beds we would have to allow for the inmates. But we felt comfortable with the changes that have been made, and we're currently at 750 to 800 that we can bring it down to 1,000. So the architects are working on 1,000. There's still a lot of discussion and feedback we're getting from the community that could go less if we do more on the court side. Judge Spahn has stepped up to really look at length of stay. There's a lot of individuals that are in the jail for a short period of time that maybe if they do something, they're thinking about shortening length of stay or thinking about alternatives to that incarceration, that they would be able to reduce it. So there's a lot of still talk happening about that, so it's not too late to be in on a lot of these discussions. I'm really excited about that. Second thing is I'm also doing a deep dive around homelessness. When I was campaigning for 15 months, and I went around all of Lancaster County, it's not just the city, and I know you all know that, as well as everybody else, but from Southern End, same thing. May not be the number of people that we're seeing in the city, or that we might be seeing in Columbia, but certainly Ephrata, Manheim, and mostly every municipality that you're probably learning about is an issue. What I'm mainly interested in is data and tracking measurements. That's a big part of how I kind of measure things and develop things. So really focusing in on getting better data, but also there hasn't been a strategic plan from a county standpoint related to homelessness in over 10 years. So I'm hoping to be able to work with the coalition and look at a county-wide strategic plan. And a big part of that, in my mind, I'm a big advocate for the social service hubs that many of the communities have developed, like your hub here in terms of, and I think you're, in my mind, the original hub. I was here back when that first started, and I really feel like you were ahead of the curve of most other communities where you just from the ground up, your community speaks and says, this is what we need, and starts acting. So I really applaud you all for that. And then we had some other communities that just started making that happen in Techway Valley, up in Ephrata, and then down in Salango. So I plan on meeting with all of those leads in the next month or so to be able to get a sense of what you're thinking as it relates to how can we come together in a unified fashion as it relates to homelessness and support each other. And I'm not going to go into great more detail, but if you don't have the information yet about the shelters that are being built in December and January, I'm assuming that you've heard about that. If you haven't, just let me know and I can send you the detail around that. That will be located in the city. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's not going to serve the whole county, so I think if we figure out a good way to sort of have a little bit happening, certainly what's happening in your area, and how do we work together to support you and everything your community's been doing. So I'm really excited about that and working on it, along with looking at mental health and substance use services that the county provides and how can we expand some of those services. We're doing pretty good with workforce. That's been a big issue for us, as it's been with many people in all communities, but we really have made some salary changes and have come up with some other ways to recruit people to be able to increase our staff from BHDS and also drug and alcohol to be able to provide those services. And also looking at ways that we can support schools with counselors in the schools. So a lot of those things I'm very interested in. That's what I've been doing the deep dive and focusing in on is the that. And then lastly, I'll say is with the election. As you know, a lot of people didn't even know the county commission was responsible for elections, and we realized the county commission stops with us. So I did a deep dive with that. This primary went really smooth. There was just one incident, I think, that happened that was, we're going to be doing some things about it. Probably what we're looking at is some video or some very brief training for people that work the polls around de-escalation or something along the lines of not like CIT. I mean, you probably all aware of CIT training. That's like 40 hours worth, but some parts of that where we shoot them. I think some of our poll workers are not even understanding the difference between standing up and sitting down and how to not to de-escalate some issues. So we're looking at something like that in time for the general election. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to stop there. Those are the big pieces that I'm super excited about working for you and working on them. Housing is a big piece of all. I didn't mention housing. I've got to mention housing because you can't talk about homelessness without mentioning housing. And I would say that is the number one issue when I was campaigning was around affordable housing and actually housing for people of all income levels. So we have the compression at any level, and that's really, really impacting affordable housing throughout the entire county, again, not the city. So really looking at, what's the county's role in all of that, but certainly around the planning commission and really promoting Places 2040, which is the county comprehensive plan. I believe if that's implemented the way it should be, where you look at some density and mixed-use housing, and then maybe thinking about simplifying zoning and thinking beyond boundaries. Those are some of the key pieces that are in the Places 2040 comprehensive plan. I was on the planning commission for the 4 years when they were developing the plan. I was on it for 8 years, and 4 of them when they were developing the plan. I feel really confident that if the municipalities implement many parts of that plan, we'll be able to achieve some really great things. Okay, so I'll stop there. I know I could give probably a little bit more time than I have, and you didn't have the 30-minute thing where you go like,
No, I don't have my timer.
Okay. Yeah, but I'll take any questions if I have that time or any comments? Something I should be thinking about that I didn't mention? Before-
All that you already said.
Is that-
Yeah, you did a really good job.
well,
Come back and visit us at any time.
Yes, and invite me anytime when you have something on there that you feel I, need to somehow contribute to or.
We like visitors.
Yeah, I like to come, and I know I'm from West Hempfield, so if you didn't know that, I'm right around the corner, I'm not too far from here, so. So it's fine. And I was gonna stay a little bit longer, and then I can't stay the whole time, so.
I would say great work on the Lead Safe Families program in Lancaster County. I have tenants in the city that have taken advantage of the program. It's a great program. So
Yeah.
great work. Thank you for
Yeah.
everything you've done on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, yeah, really, that's one of my things I'm really proud of. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of the people doing some work around that too, so, yeah, thank you for that. All right, well, thank you, I'm gonna stay for a little bit.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
And the next sign up we have is Frank Deltrick.
Welcome back.
Yes, thank you. Didn't think I was gonna be back though.
It's good to see you.
We were worried about you. Everyone was asking about you.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't think I was gonna make it, but I did, and I kind of missed you people too. I missed coming to the meeting and whatever went on, I just missed that. And I'll start out by saying I had plenty of opportunities to pick up the streaming of the meeting. And I think we spent 20 grand on that. And we still have a problem with the hearing part of it. And I only seen this when I streamed it. Now, I made the first meeting, the second one, something happened that it shut off or something.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the hearing part is still hard to hear. There is some of you that some of the council, some of the elected officials that they just speak though to begin with, but there's some that sit back in their chair and it's you're not at home, you're here at the meeting and you ought to get up and speak into the microphone, and it would be, a pleasure for the citizens then to have that. And but I appreciated I could pick up some of that even though I wasn't here. One of the things that you talked about at the first meeting back is that the Cuffs Run, a hydroelectric plant, that's what
Yeah.
we call that. I was disappointed. You were very negative. Any speech that I heard on it, you were negative about it. And there's a lot of positives of that. And I truly believe, I don't think I'll see it, but that's going to go. I worked at Muddy Run. So what is the difference between Muddy Run and the York County project that's being proposed? There's a lot of jobs going to be lost if it doesn't go. But I worked the Muddy Run project. I made a lot of money. I worked many hours on that project, and it was a very good project. If I'd have been here, I could have commented on it, but I didn't hear anything positive at the meeting. But believe me, it's going to go. But like I said, I don't know if I'll see it or not. The supposedly free money, the COVID money, what can we spend that on, and what is the borough spending the money on? For anybody.
Do you want me to do or?
Can we answer?
Sure.
So back in 2022, I believe it was, Frank, the borough adopted a resolution to take what the federal government called the standard deduction, so that if you got $10 million or less, you could take a standard deduction, which means you take that as lost revenue purely. So we adopted a resolution to say that the full amount received by the borough is lost revenue. Therefore, it goes into quote unquote the general fund and can be used for any general government purpose, is the term they use.
Anything.
Anything that we do that's within our laws that we can do.
That we could normally spend money on.
What have we been spending on?
So a big chunk of it has gone. Some of it put the update in the AV system in here. We've used it last year to help balance the budget, so we didn't dip into reserves. We reserved money for the EOC trailer that we matched county grant money, county ARPA money with ours, and we built the EOC trailer. And we started working on the stormwater project that's down at the cottages. The inlet that's basically right across from the old fire station #1 that runs from there through the cottages out to the river. We started working on the engineering of that project. I think that's all of them.
But it could be used for McGinnis, it could be used for the new highway.
We have the money for McGinnis is already.
But technically it could, yeah.
Technically it could, but that's all, we have that funding altogether. We don't need more for that right now.
Okay.
And we've been purposely trying to use large chunks of it and not a little here and a little there because of audit requirements. And we want it to be as clean as possible.
Am I correct, about $1.2 million we were given?
About that, something like that, yeah.
I call it free money, but it's not free money, it's all taxpayer.
It's all taxpayer dollars. Yep, you're absolutely right.
And it has to be committed by the end of this year and spent by the end of next year.
And if it's, well, it looks like it will be. It's not saying it, if it's not, and I'm sure it will be.
Well, if it's not spent on a project, it'll go in just.
We just move it over to the
it'll
general
just be
fund.
Moved over to the general fund anyway.
Okay. All right. The other thing is, I had the opportunity to stop at the fountain of the Fifth Street, and it was running a couple times I was there. So I get into one time, there was a lady there with a pitcher of the water in it. I tried to catch her, so I got around Fifth Street and all. I think she might have lived in one of those apartments, I'm not quite sure. But how do you feed the water to that fountain? Where's the water come from?
So right now, the Starks fixed the pump system and I'll call it the tubing. I don't know the technical term for it inside the fountain. But there's no autofill on it. So they arranged to have a neighbor or someone go in there and check the water level and keep adding to it so it doesn't run out. So that's something that, if you know more, Barb.
No, that's what the lady was doing.
Yes. So I know that Nora had worked with someone to say they'll stop by on a regular basis and check it for now to see if, and I know that right now the pump is turned off, and Barb just informed us that part of that is because with all the spring debris falling out of the trees, they didn't want to clog the pump, so they have it off right now.
Yeah, it said the pod's coming down. I even reached in when the water was there, and I took them through some out.
Thanks. Yeah.
But the problem I see up there is the vegetation, the trees. The hedge it's just about up over the balcony on the property next to it. If you sit on the bench and you look overhead, the trees are up into the wires. Was that designed for trees of that tall?
I think it was, but I can tell you that there are several groups, our Shade Tree Commission, the town gardeners, the park rangers are all looking at it. And they're looking at adding and changing and updating the landscaping that's out there, because I think it needs to be refreshed, and that's being planned right now. I know a few of us have looked at the size of the trees, and maybe they need to be pruned back or something to keep them at scale, but.
Yeah, that just took my eye more than anything. And I think it's nice if you're sitting there, it has a shade, but it takes away the niceness of the park itself. My last item is, I could talk about, I guess it's the homeless people, if you want to call it, but some problem that's been going on, and I would think council's probably aware of it. One of the local churches there, they have problems with someone, maybe it might not be the homeless, but someone urinating and crapping in the window wells. There's the one church. How I got it from a very good source. There was panhandling going on down here at Stovers and over Hinkles. Now, I haven't seen it, but the person that I had given me the information, she was down the Stovers a lot, and she's plays lottery tickets, so I have to believe her. But like I say, I haven't seen it. Do we have a public restroom for any of the citizens to go to other than the market house? And that's only on a Saturday.
And this building is open
This building-
till 8 to 4:30 every day. People are welcome to come in here. Outside of that, I don't think we do.
Well, River Park, but we've had.
Yes,
to-
River Park.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
had to lock those though, because we have issues with drums in them.
Where is
And
that?
the
But they-
sink's getting clogged and
And where is that?
Columbia Crossings.
Columbia Crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if someone's here shopping, they're not gonna walk down and come across.
No, that's the only thing here would be this building during the week, and then week on Saturday, the market house is open. That's it.
So when people go through the various commissions and everything, when they want to open a business, do they have to have a public access to a public restroom? They don't have to have.
No.
Only if it's a food facility,
It
right?
was a food facility.
Yeah, for the restaurant, I guess, but a business or shop doesn't have to.
Is it for the general public or just their patrons?
They can a restaurant can say that the restroom is for their patrons only. So there's no law that I know of that a restaurant has to let anyone use their bathroom at any time. I can look into that. I don't think that exists.
Well, I went in the market house, I made a special trip. I usually go in there Saturday and get salt pretzels. Best salt pretzels around. They say, they advertise, they have the best salt pretzels. Don't even come close. Believe me, they are so good.
They are good.
But I went in the restroom looking to see if we had a doorway access, maybe, that could be opened up.
On
to
the outside?
Now, that's a shame. That sits there all week long until Saturday, and you only got access on Saturday for that, unless you have a special meeting or something. But that's, somebody boo-booed there when you redid that.
Well, Frank, the thing about public restrooms like that, and there are some communities that advocate for public restrooms just for that reason, for homeless individuals to use. But then you have to maintain it, you have to clean it. So it's not just a matter of having a restroom. There's a whole lot of extra income that you have to pour into that to staff it correctly.
I understand that, and I followed Lancaster, what I think they were gonna put maybe 3 restaurants down there. They're gonna tie them into the sewer, the electric, and, I mean, they're really getting into it down there. I just went down to renew my fund permit, and me and my boy, we drove all over the city. I didn't know where to look. I wanted to find one of these and went. And I'd also like to know how it's being maintained and how the people are treating it. They just go in there and do whatever, you know. I don't know what they're gonna do, but I'm just curious. They spend a lot of money.
I forgot, spring to fall, we do get porta johns at Maple and Rotary.
Yeah, are they up now?
I don't know.
Yes,
should-
I was at Naples yesterday. so-
Okay,
So we do get a porta john at
that's right.
Maple and Rotary.
How long is that for?
They go up in the spring and then we
Yeah.
pull them down out in the fall. The time varies a little bit, but
But then again, we've also had issues there as well.
And there's the river.
I had told some people, I know what I would do, especially up there at the shelter. Somehow or another, I'd put a 50 gallon outside, and I'm sure that would open up some dialogue that maybe something should be done. I don't know whether, I don't know if we could afford to do like Lancaster does, but they're spending a lot of money. I thank you for letting me talk. The other thing is, the chief didn't pass away, did he? Or what happened here?
no, Barb just switched seats for tonight. But the chief he's at another meeting, so she switched.
Well, I'm glad to see you on the end because you're one of the people that's hard to hear.
Oh,
You've got us, and now you don't even have to talk. Microphone's 2 miles away. Well, anyway, thank you for speaking.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
thank you, Frank.
Is there anyone else that wanted to speak that has not signed up? Mayor Lutz?
Just one thing, and answer Frank. Chief Brommer is at West Hempfield Township meeting tonight. They are honoring Officer Dan Bell for saving a life out in the river. You may have heard it or read about Dan waded out in the river and rescued a gentleman, pulled him in. So he's being honored for that tonight, and the chief is attending that. That's why he's not here. And with that, I don't have anything else.
Action items, so we don't normally do action items at our workshops. However, we do have 2 action items tonight because it was sort of pressing that they get done, which was what we talked about last week at the executive session. Do I have a motion to ratify the decision to terminate an employee within their probation period?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl, to ratify the decision to terminate an employee within their probationary period. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? And then, do I have a motion to authorize staff to extend an offer of employment to Tiffany Frank for the position of administrative assistant?
Second.
Question.
Hold on, we're in the middle of the motion here. I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl, to authorize staff to extend an offer of employment to Tiffany Frank for the position of administrative assistant. Does council have any questions, comments, or concerns?
I do. In looking at some of the documents, I noticed, and I could have been looking at it wrong, so, correct me if I'm incorrect. But in 10 years, it appears as if she had 7 different jobs in 10 years, and that was kind of alarming to me. I didn't see any references, and I was wondering where they are, and, have you contacted the references? And then I noticed that, like on the applications, they'll say where they went to school, but it doesn't say anything about degrees earned or number of years or something. So those were my 3 concerns.
Sure. The number of jobs, we all caught that initially. It was with the same company, just different positions within the company. So she moved around within departments, but not still with, I forget who exactly it was, but it was with a healthcare company. So she just had different positions within the job, in the company. References, yeah, we do go back through, and before we hire people on, we do check some references. I'll be honest, I depend now less and less on references because anyone who's applied for a job asks their best friends and people who are going to make them look good for a reference. So a lot of the material that I've been reading on hiring practices puts less and less weight on just checking references because everyone's going to ask people who will make them glow. That's what you do. You find people to make you look good. We will check and verify employment if necessary. But most employers now with HR laws, they'll simply tell you if they work there or not. They don't get into details of their personnel files. They're not allowed to do that.
Right. And then what's the other one? Oh, what about like the degrees? Like, you don't know how many years they were at this technical school if they earned any kind of a degree.
If a position requires college degrees or something, we dig into that further. This position requires a high school diploma as the highest degree required for this job. So that's the one that we verified and look for.
Okay. So then with Courtney, she did have technical education, but you couldn't tell if she had how many years or she had a degree. So how could you tell if she was actually qualified for all that was expected of her?
We asked all the questions in the interview process that relate to the job. Do you have experience in? Do you comfortable with? Are you good at using, etc.? And she affirmed that all of them that she was. I was talking with Paula earlier. One of the things that was done years ago, and that practice has been dropped, is you give people like in an administrative position, you give them skills tests. We haven't done that in years. Give them
I
a,
remember doing.
giving them a typing test and other things, you make them go through that. We haven't done that in years.
The other question that I had, not really a question, but when, I appreciated all the documentation in the folders, in the employee folders. When they are talked to about, maybe areas that they need to improve or something that they see, would it be helpful, or do you already do this, to have something typed up that talks about what you discussed and have that person sign it, so that we have documentation that, yes, they were spoken to about this, they heard what was said, and it was signed and dated by that person?
That's a good idea. No, we haven't done that as well here. It's probably a good idea though.
Yeah, I don't know how beneficial you would think that might be. There was something else. Oh, when they're hired, do they get a document that they sign of Columbia Borough that tells them exactly what the expectations are for that job?
They get
What
a
you're looking for in the probationary period?
They get a job description that they have to sign that they've received it, and they get a personnel manual that they have to sign the sheet that they've received it. And then they begin their on-site training where we go through and we work with them. They train them for the different positions.
Okay. And when they join the union, is that when they receive the union manual, or do they get the union manual when they're hired?
We tell them about the union. I know with Tiffany and Courtney, they asked for a copy. They had met with the union rep, the union steward, and they had asked for a copy of the contract, and we gave it to them. Made sure they had a copy.
All right. I would just, that would be the one thing that I would have liked to have seen, that I would have liked to have been documented, that it was actually, that all those, the list that was there, that it was actually communicated to her, and that she had something to sign, and we could see that.
Mhm.
That's all.
Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Frank, you had a question?
Yes. Thank you. So then, I do understand Tiffany is not here, she's not working yet.
Tiffany,
I am.
and this will really add to confusion. There's two Tiffanys. There's Tiffany 1, who we're bringing on board. She came through the temp agency, and we're working on getting her full time here. The person we interviewed, I think 5 people for this position. 2 of them rose quickly to the top. One was Courtney. The other one was another Tiffany. The Tiffany who was being asked to be approved tonight, Tiffany Frank. She has not started yet, is not here yet. Pending approval, she can start as early as tomorrow.
Any of the new hires that replaced some of the people that left, retired or whatever?
Sure.
How have we advertised that position? Has it been in the newspaper?
Yes.
Or it hasn't been?
We ran to ensure we got people, because I was concerned. We ran it. It's on our website. We ran it in LNP, and through LNP, you put it on Monster Jobs, I think it's called. So it was in all 3 of those.
Okay. How many of them was a union position?
All the admin positions are union positions.
All union position?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, I'll proceed to vote. I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl, to authorize staff to extend an offer of employment to Tiffany Frank for the position of administrative assistant. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Next, this is where we reorganize. So now we're up to Barb, discussion on the 3 task force. Speak into the microphone, or else Frank is going to yell.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Let me make sure this works. The last time that I was here, when we did a budget meeting, and I requested money from the budget, and then Council President Feather asked me should we have a vote to see if this is a borough effort? And I said, let's just wait. I want to talk to my team. I want to, think about this. So I'm bringing this back to you, and this is just a presentation that I'm giving to you because some of the questions were just what is 3E? What is that? So I hope to be able to answer that for you tonight and also talk a little bit about the clarity that we have as a team in moving forward. So first of all, the 3E task force, it's a task force. And the 3E stand for Education and Employment for Everyone. And it is a temporary focus group formed for the purpose of developing strategies that will significantly reduce the poverty rate in Columbia Borough through education and employment. Because a lack of education and meaningful employment are two main reasons for poverty, our strategies are built around improving the education and employment opportunities for our citizens, especially those who are facing poverty. We intend to take a whole borough approach to boosting the income of all our citizens, including those who live at or below poverty level. These 7 spheres of our community become major influencers in advancing Columbia into our future. We see in this slide the various topics that when focused on and addressed can boost economy for all of our citizens. Our first focus is going to be on housing because there is already community investment in our housing situation. I am presenting tonight not for the purpose of asking for your vote to exist or to become a line item in the budget, but the government becomes aware of our efforts and will work at times alongside the other influencers to successfully address these topics. Just like I kind of like brainstorm now, if we're gonna focus on housing, what influencers could come together and work to improve that? And I thought of the government, the economy, sector of our community, the media, our faith-based, all of them working together could boost and change our housing situation in Columbia. Our newly approved comprehensive plan, which was designed to be implementable, includes goals that address housing issues, and we intend to focus on them. America is a land of opportunity, and we aim to help build a community that does just that, provide for opportunities to be had by everyone who chooses to make Columbia their home. As we do, we as a borough will receive the benefits as more individuals and families thrive and become greater contributors to our neighborhoods and our cities. So these are some of our upcoming events. The first thing we want to do is find a nonprofit who will bring the task force under their domain so that we can raise money. Some upcoming events is May 18th, we have a resource fair at Maple Park from 11 to 2. Currently, we have 16 exhibitors. On June 13th, we are hosting a housing discussion at Columbia Crossings from 2:30 to 4. On June 15th, we're going to have an information table at the car show. On September 5th, we're again partnering with CEDC and CareerLink and hosting a career recruitment skill development fair at the Columbia Market House. Some of our future plans is to continue efforts at improving housing and build neighborhood family engagement centers. Long term, we intend to address every topic that will improve financial stability. You're all invited to be, to come out and be a part of that. I do recognize that government has a major role to play in all of these improvements in the borough, along with every other influential segment of our borough. So that's really, I'll probably update you maybe once a quarter just to let you know what we're doing. Just for an example of how government can be involved in the housing meeting that we're having. We have someone from zoning coming and someone from planning coming. So we're focusing on getting all of those influencers that we saw under the umbrella, getting every them involved, starting a conversation on what they can contribute to making some improvements and first and foremost in the housing. And government is already doing a great job at improving the housing. So that's all I have for you tonight. And I will update you in the future.
Thanks, Barb.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any questions or comments for Barb?
Yeah, or I fully support what this plan, I'll say, 'cause I don't know if you have a name of the group yet or not. You said two very important things that caught my ear. One was you were looking for a nonprofit to partner with for the fundraise, and I think that's an excellent idea. The other part of that, what I'm thinking is, so many times here in Columbia, we have so many different organizations and only so many people to pull from as volunteers. And right away, I thought of what you're talking about in Columbia Connections that was mentioned earlier tonight. To me, it would seem appropriate or more ideal that Columbia Connections blends into this, I'll say, this group or this movement.
Right.
So that we don't have this one and then this one and that one. There was a time in Columbia, we had so many different nonprofit organizations that you couldn't keep track of them all. And ultimately, practically all of them failed. For that reason, because it was spread so thin. So as it goes forward, I would hope that you gather in some of those other folks.
Right. That is a really good point. And many of the people who have signed up for this resource fair did so because of Columbia Connections.
And I saw your guest list,
Yeah,
and
everything went out.
it was like, okay, this is the mailing list for Columbia Connections.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Any other thoughts, advice, questions?
You consider Habitat talking to them.
Yes, Habitat is actually coming to, I get mixed up. Habitat's coming to the housing meeting along with Tabor. And there's a gentleman coming, he's the executive director of Chestnut Street Housing in Lancaster. He's coming. I was hoping maybe you would come and, if you feel so inclined, and maybe you could talk about your whole project, which I think is still a really great idea. Any other thoughts? Okay, that's all. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Barb.
Thank you. All right, and next we're going to Councilperson Bernard on discussion on reestablishing a QRS system in Columbia.
Right, so several weeks back, months back, I think at this point, Chief Rhino brought this up. As we go into this discussion, I want you to remember this question that Chief Rhino posed to us. What would you do if it was your mother laying on the floor having a heart attack right now? What would you want to have happen? What would you want to have happen if your mom was on the floor having a heart attack? So we've had a couple meetings, including myself, borough manager, police chief, fire chief, Penn State Health was here. Were you here at one of those meetings? Jay might have been here at one of those meetings. Anyway, discussion was this. It was centered around the fact that all of our emergency services are stretched thin due to circumstances beyond any of our control. Your volunteerism is down. The hiring pool is getting slimmer and skinnier and thinner. Budget constraints, county policies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Higher demand, less resources. So, the consensus is among the folks that were at this table that QRS is a valuable resource to the borough to supplement and complement our emergency service departments that we have now. The QRS that would be dedicated to Columbia to serve like a resource. I can't even read my writing here. I'm trying to read my notes. To serve Columbia, and we had a QRS here at one time. We all felt that that was a valuable resource to the borough, whether, you know, you were with the fire department or running with somebody else or EMS, all that stuff, out the window when you're looking at the the metrics, analytics of what the QRS provide to the people of the borough at a time when other resources may have been not available. It's invaluable. And Dan, what would you do if your mom was on the floor? What would you want to have if your mom was on the floor having a heart attack? So the question is really for us, I guess, to discuss it. You know, is it feasible, money-wise? Is it doable with people and equipment that can do the job? And if that is a determination, you know, what does a solution look like to have a QRS be available in the borough? We have talked about a bunch of different options. You know, ultimately, I believe conversation, if we agree that we want to pursue a QRS solution in the borough, the next consideration would be whether hiring a consultant to help us determine if any kind of solution is plausible would be the next step. So, any questions, any considered thoughts, any?
I'll start.
Sure.
The QRS is going to be a function of the borough.
Don't know. There's multiple models that we talked about and discussed.
Yeah,
you wanna
I
say
think,
something, Mark?
sure. I think what Chief Rhino was saying, thanks, Frank. Now I'm conscious of where the mic is. I want to be clear. What he suggested is the worst thing you want to do is jump in and just put a QRS together.
Right.
What he suggested is we put together an RFP and go out and have an expert look and see, one, is QRS truly needed? Is it just a nice idea, or is there validated that backs up the need for it? And if it is found to be needed, then what model would be best to put in place to develop a QRS system? So I think if we are interested in looking at this need, then let's see if the data proves out. I have a meeting tomorrow morning, and Todd, I can invite you if you want to come. I just thought of that. With Penn State Health, just to kind of evaluate, they're going to bring the numbers and kind of talk about where they are and where they stand. We had Nate from Penn State Health at the meeting. He did send me some of the data they have for their call volumes, et cetera. So I think if this is something that is of interest for Borough Council, I liked Chief Rhino's suggestion of don't just rush into it. Get it someone who is a consultant in this area, have them run a study of the need assessment. And if we find it's not needed, then we don't need to do anything with it. And then if we do see there's a need, then we'll see what the true need is. Such as, I can tell you when I ran ambulance in Leola years and years ago, we had 2 day shift crews that were made up of employees of one, or each crew was 4 employees in one company. I'll say it that way. So they would come in the morning, grab the rig, all of them go to their job. And if they got called, they left the job and went because they worked right in that region. So they staffed their crew in one company. And I think there's 2 or 3 companies that did that in that area. I think like Dark Container was one of them, Quality, Custom Kitchens, whatever's the other one. So there is an option like that. We talked about the possibility of what if we bring on, if we have to have at least one paid person, have them multitask. Chief and I have talked about this for a couple of years now. They might be a CSA during a certain time, but if their call goes out, we park the rig out here and they go. And then we have a paid driver who can get there. And the whole purpose of a quick response unit or CRS is to get there first. They don't transport. They get there, they assess the patient, they stabilize them, and wait for an ambulance to get there. And often if it's a life-critical emergency, they can begin CPR, they can administer oxygen, they can get the patient stabilized a whole lot faster until a BLS or ALS unit can show up and take care of the rest and transport them.
The arrival time with an EMS service it's not luck anymore. We all know that, right? Doesn't matter what municipality you may have an agreement with, when dispatch calls, you go. And you go wherever dispatch tells you to go. And we may need assistance, and you never know where that assistance is coming. So this is just, I think this is a consideration that's important to help us take better care. It's our responsibility of our citizens in case of emergencies.
You know, I see, I'll say better than 75% of the calls. And I see that the police are there, the ambulance service is there, and the fire company's there. 3 units already are there. And I question, do we need a 4th unit there? And many times, the police are the first ones on scene. And Mark remarked about the CSA. Part of the chief's plans were that the CSA possibly worked into this situation. And I was part of the first meeting on the QSN. And it's gone through about, I'll say, 3 attempts at least. Every one of them failed. Leadership, 1. Funding, 2. Personnel, 3. All volunteer, because where are you pulling from? You're pulling from volunteers that are already doing that job, a job similar somewhere else. And one of the first things, and I think someone alluded to it, that I would do is have a conversation with our current ambulance group and find out. You know, I don't see a lack of service. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see a lack of service. My mother has one of those things around her neck that you push the button. She pushed the button. I got a call. Before I got there, it was in minutes. The police were already there, had her sitting up, handling the situation, and then in came the ambulance, and then the fire company. So, you know, I don't see a lack of service.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't heard of a lack of service. I just think we keep on, or I shouldn't say we, this keeps on coming up. It keeps on coming up, time and time again. And it's like, how many times do you do something and fail before you finally wise up and say, you know, this isn't me? Right.
And honestly, you know, when Mark was talking to me about this, the first thing I thought was, you know, I constantly think of enabling legislation and everything. And if we end up pulling this in under us, then it falls under civil service. We have to follow civil service to hire the people. Do we really? I mean, we're having a hard enough time hiring our police through the civil service process.
Well, and you know very well, there is bills in the House and Senate for PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to add another level of volunteers into that.
Or paid that are, and that puts our insurance liability more.
If we have insurance.
Mayor, I was glad you brought that up about the police, because I was going to ask that. Do we have, if the police are generally out there and in on the call, do we have data on response times for those medical calls with our police department?
We have data, how specific that the data is that you're asking for, Pete, I'm not sure. We try, you know, we have to go through the county to get that.
Mm-hmm.
Is the county able to give us that? We can have that conversation.
And I guess
I can tell
secondly
you how many
is,
calls they
Mhm.
respond to. I'm sure the county can give us that in no time whatsoever. Time, I'm not sure if they can ferret out the time.
Yeah.
They usually can, because you can give them time to dispatch, the
It's
time on
of
scene.
Dispatch, time of arrival, and, you know, when you arrive at, say, a class 1, you may pull up, fly out the door, and go take care of the person that's having the issue, and then report it.
Yeah, and then radiate it to there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right,
That's true.
right.
So, I mean, but I'll talk with the chief about that and see if there isn't some data that we can pull out.
Because I would like to see the chief or you be a part of that conversation to be able to give a representation of what the police are already doing. Because that is a vital part of our response. And what percentage would you say of medical calls do the police respond to?
100% of class
100%.
1s, I'll say.
Yeah,
Class 2s probably in the high, I'll say 80s or better. Class 3s, well, if it's an accident, they're at every one of them.
mm-hmm,
Do they carry preventers?
Yeah.
Outside.
Yeah, there's one.
Yeah, we have AEDs.
Right.
Most of our police, well, we do have, the police officers are trained to a certain extent,
Right.
but quite a few of our police officers are firemen and actually are qualified medics.
Now, my other question was with the QRS, the design of it or who would be what would the training level or title of those working for the QRS carry? Would they be medics, paramedics?
Would be the lower tier.
So
Just be an EMT.
EMT,
There's actually a class below that now, and he went over that, and
and so would that be someone below or above the training of, say, our police officers? Below.
You know, one of the problems that existed before, if I may, was to man the vehicle. There was a lower amount of training, and sometimes they would arrive on scene and couldn't render assistance because they didn't have the training. And then to their benefit, they worked hard to try to get EMTs and all, assigned to the vehicles, but then it's pulling volunteers from somewhere, and most of the time they're working on an ambulance crew, and they're working, so they run part-time with the QRS. So you may have a QRS that's staffed fully or just enough to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to manpower.
Yeah.
Manpower and money, it's the two big things, manpower and money.
I think I appreciate the comment Mark made about looking at all the data and seeing, is this a major need? And if it is, then we can figure out the manpower and money if it's solving a problem.
mm-hmm.
But if the problem is minimal or doesn't exist altogether, I think you'll find that out in those discussions.
Is that a consultant's job to sit through that data to make the determination if it's worth going the next step? See what a model might look like?
Depends how big a pool of data you have to sift through.
I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, is it going to take hours and hours to figure that out, or is it as simple as looking at response times and
If we hire a consultant, it's gonna take hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to figure it out.
You may get away with contacting.
I understand
ECD.
that.
so, here's my problem with the whole thing. You bring in a consultant, okay? And the comment was made, what if there's your mother laying there? If it's my mother laying there, I want 0 response time. I want to be there
Mm-hmm.
right away. But that's fully strong.
Mhm.
So if currently, Lancaster or Penn State Health is providing 6 minute, whatever, it's 5 minute, 8 minute, whatever it is, response time, you're gonna say, okay, well, If they're doing an 8-minute response time, it's 7 minutes for QRS, worth it. You know, and then again, as the mayor said, volunteerism is dying rapidly. And so it becomes a cost. And I know when we had QRS here before, they would do automatic billing to the insurance. As the insurance paid, they paid. If they didn't, I don't think they went after the people. But at some point, if you're gonna man that and have that equipment there, if the insurance doesn't pay, somebody does have to pay. So to me, it's a service. It's a quick response service in the medical field. If Hampshire General, or excuse me, Penn State Health feels that that's a necessary thing for Columbia, then I think that should be their responsibility to bring it on. We work with Penn State Health to do that. Penn State Health agreed to supply us with ambulances. So yes, there's instances where they're taken out of town, but that can happen with the QRS as well. So the reality of it is, you know, I think it's, I don't think it's the borough council's position, or should be the borough's council position, to go down that avenue. I just don't.
I agree with that.
I can tell you, that topic was talked about in our meeting, and Penn State Health has made a clear statement that they are not providing QRS services in any place that they cover.
No, I wouldn't either. It's an added expense for nothing. They can't do anything but provide Band-Aids or blood pressure. I mean, it's really,
Basically, unless you have a paramedic.
It depends on their level of training.
but you're not gonna put a paramedic on a quick response unit. And if you are, then why would you run it as a paramedic unit?
Right.
It makes no sense.
To
It
me,
really doesn't.
if the police are showing up and have more qualified personnel
Mhm.
than the QRS, to me, that's a peace of mind for my mother, right?
Exactly.
Right.
The fact that someone is at least there assessing the situation and
CPR if needed.
can,
And they have the radio right
Move
there
someone,
to be able to
you know.
know, oh, hey, I've seen this, this is, we need this, we need that.
exactly.
And I will give a shout out to Penn State. Well, all Lancaster County Medical Service, EMS service. We are so fortunate to have a 5, 6, 7 minute response time.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people in this world that half hour,
Mhm.
days. I mean, it's crazy. So, I
I
mean, for
know.
us to be weighing, you know, do we save a minute or whatever, I think it's a little extreme.
Speaking of Penn State, we haven't seen monthly reports from them since Adams.
I was thinking the same thing.
We have we not?
No,
No, they didn't. I got a draft report today that's going to be, we're going over, and then it'll be hopefully in the 14th packet for you guys. They were scrambling to find replacements and get the staff up to date, so no, they haven't run the reports yet.
Also moving the report dates to the second full meeting, regular session.
for,
Some of the ones, it started with the discussion with the police department because they don't get their county data until late. And Scott is always rushing, and then we send out an amended report. So I asked him, I said, hey, listen, is it easier? There's no locked in meeting date that these have to follow. And the other one that I did talk about was Paula's reports, because the HARB meetings and some of the planning stuff we have scheduled for the second regular meeting, or the fourth Tuesday, I'll say. And I don't want management staff to come to too many meetings that they don't have to. So if we can stack Paula's reports with her action items on the fourth Tuesday, have other people's stuff on the second Tuesday, then we're minimizing the number of time that management has to come here. So we're looking at that right now, trying to shift some of the report schedules around to balance that out.
Good.
Because again, it started with Scott is he sends it over right on time. He says, but I don't have the county court data yet. When I get it, I'll update the report. I'm like, well, why? Why are we doing that? Let's
so suddenly
give you
I
time.
was alone at the end of the month with my finance report, now everyone's joining me.
Everyone's joining you at the end.
Everyone's joining me. Join the party.
So we're trying to. I'm reaching out to all the people who give us reports and say, hey, what with your timing and pulling stuff together, what meeting works best for you?
All right.
So I'm hearing
My personal opinion is I don't feel that it's needed, and I don't wanna throw money down the toilet for a consultant that's gonna tell us, because honestly, a consultant is gonna tell you they're gonna find what you want them to find for you. And, I don't think that's a wise use of taxpayer dollars.
I think Peter's comment on, I am aware that QRS will be manned by a lower level and responder, which is something I thought about during our meeting, but it really didn't quite register. It registered, it makes sense. And, police are showing up and they can do, not everything a paramedic can do, but certainly offer life-saving care to a higher degree.
As
That
evidenced
makes
by
sense.
the commendations that our officers have received
That makes sense.
tonight and also previous to that. Is there? Good. I love that. I really do. All right. So anything else on that? Thanks for bringing that forward, though.
I think Sharon had a comment too.
Yes. Oh, Frank? Sorry, I didn't see your hand, Sharon.
Just put it up. Makes me mad. I should have an answer to this, but we had a QRS and it was disbanded or something. Somebody tell me why that was.
QRS was going to be absorbed by SPEMS. If SPEMS was chosen to be our provider of EMS services choice.
Susquehanna Valley EMS, right?
What's
Is
that?
what, there was Susquehanna Valley EMS, those
Yes,
FEMS, yes.
Susquehanna Valley
No.
EMS.
The QRS was going to be absorbed by LEMSA.
I'm sorry.
Lancaster-
Right, I'm so
Lancaster
sorry. I
EMS
said the wrong.
Association.
LEMSA,
There you
you're
go.
right.
And if we
I'm so
chose
sorry.
to,
I
if
misspoke
we,
big
yeah,
time.
if we named LEMSA as our preferred provider, then we would get the QRS service. And council voted to not have LEMSA and instead stay with SVEMS, who has now become.
Well,
Penn State
dissolved and
Health.
Penn State bought them out,
Right.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I got accurate.
That's all right, I gotcha,
Right?
I gotcha,
Is
sorry.
it CDGBDG?
CDBG. Had to be very like,
About how long ago was that?
that was about 6 years,
18,
5 or 6
2018, I
years
think it
ago.
was, something like that,
2019, I think.
2019?
Yeah, it was 19.
Well, I know if I'm there gasping for air, I had an accident or whatever, I want whoever can help me. What always bothered me, whoever got there that couldn't transport, QRS couldn't transport. I remember going to safety meetings and hearing a lot of issues on that. And if I'm laying there, they can't transport me, now here comes EMS, and whatever, minutes later, and they've taken me on the way to Lancaster, to wherever, and I happen to pass away. Of course, you can't do nothing about it then, but I always had a problem with the person that if they could have been transported to the hospital, maybe that would have saved their lives. I always had a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but, and like I said, I knew that we had that, and I don't know what, I forgot all about that. I used to pick a lot of this up at the safety meeting, which we don't have a safety meeting no more, so I kind of forgot about all that, but thanks for reminding me of that. Thank you.
Bedtime?
All right, good night.
All right.
I think Frank made a good comment there. If there is a need, and Eric, piggyback on what you said, if there is a need, should we not try to have Penn State Lifeline beef up their responses and everything, rather than create something completely new and possibly conflicting?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather.
I feel like Frank,
Kick in, I'd
if
rather
I go
give it
down,
to
I want
them.
someone to haul me wherever I gotta go.
Yep.
As soon as you can, absolutely.
And when you have more people, they end up tripping over each other when you have too many people at the scene anyway, so. Karen?
I just wanted to echo what you said, Heather. I don't think a consultant at this point would be appropriate, and I would hate to see the money spent for that. And I don't know that I would feel comfortable with the borough taking on the responsibility of a QRS, because, I mean, that's one more thing that I think is just something that we can't handle. And I think cost, you had brought up the cost. I mean, would this be staffed 24/7? I mean, we would, and insurance for the vehicle and the people, I just think it would be a lot more expensive than we realize at this point anyway. And I know we broke up the Board of Health, and I'm sure, like you had mentioned, it's hard to get volunteers. I'm sure we don't want to go down that route again and try to struggle with that, but personally, I would like to see a Board of Health. And again, in here. And to what Eric said about the minute might not matter. And in some cases it wouldn't, but I think in a lot of cases it might. A minute's a long time if you're on the floor bleeding or dying.
No, I understand.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we don't need a QRS. I'm just saying I don't think it's something maybe we can manage well.
Right.
And I would more or less go with talking to Adam Martin about, you know, what his feelings are on the whole thing, rather than hire a consultant. I don't know, that's my feelings on it, but, thank you.
Any other input on that?
So the next step is nothing. I would like to tell the person who brought this up for discussion, call the meetings.
I think, Mark, aren't you planning on talking to Penn State Health?
Yeah, I'm in communicate with them on a regular basis. Again, Penn State Health has no interest in running or managing a QRS team. If we wanted one, they would work with them as needed, but they have no interest in developing, participating in that service. So it's not a Penn State Health issue. It'd be something on aside from them right now.
And he had no conflict with it.
No conflict, but no interest in working towards that. It's not part of their model.
I'll talk to the chief tomorrow. And see what, based on Pete's questions, what data we can glean to present to you, or have the chief present to you, possibly the next meeting. Say, you know, we had X amount of call time, was it, whatever, something like that. See what we can dig up there on our own.
I appreciate the discussion. It's really good. I'm not for or against it. I'm for what makes sense. And, you know, my wife's on the floor tonight. I want to get her to attention as quickly as possible. And I know there's responsible ways to do that and irresponsible ways to try to do that. Whatever we do, I want it to be successful and sustainable. So it's a good conversation. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Someday for me, said.
Yeah, I think that's right around the corner. What was New Year's Eve?
All right, and next we have Borough Council comments. We'll start over here with Councilperson Stahl.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilperson Kaufman.
Nothing tonight.
Yeah, I would like to thank Officer Jack Kopp for a ride-along the other week. Young man who has really dreamt of being a police officer all his life, or something like that. Police officer, king of the world, or an astronaut, one of those three. Yeah, a really good kid. Has a bachelor's degree in criminal science. He's dedicated to his job, loves it, loves Columbia. He's going to be here a long time. And if you want to ride along with him, I make nice and make friends and create relationships, but really try to dig into what they're thinking and what they're hearing, how they're being influenced. He has some really great answers. I'm here to, I'm not long enough to make any rash decisions like that. I love being in Columbia, and I'm going to be here a long time. More folks like Officer Kopp on the force would be a pleasure. Thank you, Officer Kopp.
Nothing for me, thanks.
Nothing. I had a couple of things. The last meeting 2 weeks ago, I forgot that I had wanted to mention this publicly. So I'm doing it tonight. Because I think it's important for the public to understand, you know, we constantly hear about our tax dollars being spent here, there, and whatever. But, you know, we purchased that property up on Ridge Avenue. We've now had 2 break-ins where our equipment has been damaged for the first time to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars of damage by kids. Sick. So you have kids running around doing this stuff. The second time, luckily, and I heard Jake is now an honorary member of the police department because he did catch them the second time around, but was unable to get them before they went under the fence. However, they did leave their bicycles behind and then told their parents their bicycles were stolen. So we were fortunate enough to catch those gentlemen who told their moms that their bicycles were stolen. But yeah, so these are the kind of things that are happening. I mean, the youth, if you see something, you need to say something because we're just one of the victims of these kind of crimes. The youth right now are out, they're everywhere, they're causing property damage, not just to our stuff, but they're causing property damage to everyone's stuff. If you see something, say something, let us know. If you have a camera and you catch something on your camera, please let us know. I mean, this is no joke. This is where your tax dollars are going to replace equipment that is being damaged by young members of this community. I mean, it's crazy. So I got that out there. I just wanted people to be aware of that. Next item, yeah, it really makes me angry.
It's disappointing.
It was very disappointing. Jake saw that when I know he probably just wanted to vomit when he went in and saw the damage the first time. It was crazy.
Damage to property is disappointing, but it's disappointing to know that kids are doing that.
They took a 10-foot aluminum ladder and shoved it through the windows of the Mini.
And spray painted
And
everywhere.
spray
And
painted everywhere.
damaged some of the other equipment and was trying to do more, I think, because they were moving some of the big equipment around. Looks like they were
Yes.
trying to smash it through one of the big bay doors to get it outside. So
Yes.
How old were these youngsters?
teenagers, that's as far as I know. But
Young teens.
As far as what I've heard, yes.
and we've, in addition to what I was talking about, we spent money on getting the fence fixed and up there. I mean, we're close to getting electric back on out there, so that's going to help getting,
They cut through barbed
motion
wire.
lighting. They're cutting through the fence and they keep damaging the fence again to get in. So it's frustrating on
I've asked if
multiple
we can
levels.
electrify it, but I'm told that is like not good. And we're not allowed to have gun turrets either. I've been told that. We're not allowed to have gun turrets. Because I asked that too.
Maybe paintball turrets.
You'd rather an attack dog.
Yeah, well, I would
Can't
gladly,
do that either.
no, you can't, because I said I would send Penny out there in a heartbeat.
Can't even spank them.
But yeah, it's just very disappointing that, we're going to all this trouble to secure our property and it continues to be vandalized. And, I said, as a representative of this community, the community is the victim in this case. And I have said unequivocally that they should be punished to the extent that we can punish them for whatever we can conclusively prove that they've done, because this is not okay. So, and next thing, this weekend, I had some interesting conversations, and I just want to publicly say that I think Paula and Matt and Alex and Jean, Bud, Letty are doing a great job. They have a really hard job, and like I made the comment several times this weekend, everyone wants code enforcement until it's their property
Right.
being cited.
Mhm.
our employees are doing their job and they're doing exactly what we tasked them to do. And that is citing people for high weeds and grass and trash and peeling paint and all the things that make neighborhoods less attractive. And we're trying to get that cleaned up. And they're doing a fantastic job with that. They were pretty beat up this weekend on social media, and I jumped in there and tried to, put facts out there. But one question that was recurrent, and I figured I would bring it here to council to see if there is any appetite to kick this over to Kelly for the legislation. The requirement of having a permit for the fire pit. That seems to be a sticking point. Everyone thinks it's the most ridiculous thing in the whole world that we make them get a permit for the fire pit. Is there any appetite to kick that to Kelly to talk about removing that from the code? That was in place before I got here, and as I understand it, it was done at the request of the fire department because there were false alarms and also people that were irresponsible with their burning, so there were brush fires and so forth, and this was one way to cut down on that. But I don't know where we stand, if that is still something, if that's something we would like to look at a future meeting or what.
Heather, do you know what is the cost of?
$25 and it's a lifetime permit,
Unless you move the unit.
unless you move it.
Unless you move
Every
it.
time I move it.
We had several bad fires as a result of that kind of stuff. And I know that the fire company was called quite a few times about fire pits.
Right.
One of the big problems that we had prior to the ordinance, matter of fact, talked to Paula not too long ago about one up in my neighborhood. People were burning. They were burning lumber, not logs. They were burning old lumber, and there were some real big fires. Matter of fact, I called the police department on one night I was walking, and I saw this fire. I thought the house was on fire. I saw this fire, and I looked, and there was a kid in a tree above the fire. And it scared me to death. And I called the fire department, and the guy had no idea what was going on. And once it was explained to him, he was very grateful. But I understand what the people are saying, but
And so that's why I figured I'm gonna bring it here. It's not for any one of us to say, Sharon.
I just wanted to quick say that I think the homes here are too close to not have. And I think it would benefit the residents too, because it's educational in a way. When the chief came to our house, we don't even hardly use ours. I think we had it on 2 times in 8 years. But when the Chief Rhino came at the time, and, he explained some things to us about it and so forth. And I just think when you have these tight road homes in some areas and you're gonna put a fire pit in a yard that's that narrow next to your neighbor's wooden fence or something, it's almost, and believe me, I'm sick of the rules. I'm not somebody that says we need more rules, but I just think this is a real safety issue when you're talking about fire and people that maybe don't understand that they should probably have water there and so forth available in case something does go wrong. But I just think it'd be a mistake.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was my response to someone was, you think it's a ridiculous rule until your neighbor has a fire pit and puts it under their tree and you have a fire in your backyard.
Next to the house.
Or it's raining, you put it up on the porch.
Right.
So that you don't,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I thank Sharon because you said probably the most important thing. The education that
Yeah.
most people get when they go out to do
Yep.
to check the fire pit. That is so important because, yes, they have to be so many feet away from a building and have a screen on them, those kind of things. And people don't think about that. They just don't think about that. And I know darn well, if you talk to the guys that are going out and doing it, they're probably going to tell you exactly what you said. Most people went, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So it may be $25 worth of education that the people are getting, and probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of, or a life,
Yeah.
for not having a
And
house.
if you only have to pay it once.
Yep.
And unless you move it, you know, I think that's reasonable. Thank you.
We do, when
Is your
we
mic
go
on?
out and do,
Is your mic on?
Come on, Frank's gonna yell.
hi Fred,
I got you, Frank.
I'm trying not to.
I got you.
when we go out and do the inspections, and it is Matt and I that do them, we do take the do's and don'ts with us. They get a copy of it along with their signature on our permit application. So they are well informed. I think it would be a mistake, that's my personal opinion, for the very reasons that Sharon stated.
I certainly understand the frustration, especially of getting like if someone wasn't aware and then they receive a citation or a quick ticket for an unregistered fire pit and they were conscious of fire safety, I can understand why it's kind of like salt in a wound. But again, these are one of those situations where from the standpoint of safety, I mean, I don't need to say everything that's been said already, but the foolishness of one person that doesn't act with fire safety in mind, and then it causes who knows what. Yeah, it's worth keeping it. I think it would. The only other comment I would say is in our publication as a borough, it would be helpful just to throw that in there.
Yeah, I think we do. Let's make sure that at our next, at the spring, well, you can do it in the fall and the spring.
Spring and
Because-
fall.
Yeah, to make a special note of, do you have a fire pit? Let us know.
Yep.
Read newsletter.
Yeah, and
In the
that's
newsletter.
that's the word I was looking for.
Something did just go out on
Text my
Text my gov, yeah.
about the fire pit.
Yes.
Yep.
So I just wanted to personally thank Paula and her staff because I think they're doing a heck of a job. And yes, every once in a while we're going to get something wrong. That's why we have an appeals board. But I think that overall, town is looking better. People are, taking more pride and cleaning things up. And if you see something, say something. Don't just jump on social media and complain that, oh, my neighbor's yard's this, my neighbor's yard's that. Reach out to one of us members of council. I mean, I can't tell you how many things I have in my email or my messenger that people are saying, I don't want my name used because I don't want to be targeted by my neighbors, but can you have a look at, give us an address? I was on CS Data more times this weekend and poor Paula, I hope she don't get a report because I was on there all weekend looking up addresses, seeing, if things were cited, and if not, sending it over to her. 9 times out of 10, they were cited already. So I think there was only one that I had to send you that wasn't cited. But yeah, they're doing a heck of a job.
You can file an anonymous complaint online, correct?
You can.
Yes, but there are people that do not feel that anonymous is truly anonymous.
So whether it's online, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, they're all anonymous.
Yes, they all go into CS Datum as anonymous.
And that's straight across the board.
And finally, for this evening, council, in your mailboxes, you have received a copy of the audit report. The auditor, Z, will be here next Tuesday to give us the audit report. The audit will be going out also and will be available to the public in the packet on Friday when that's ready. So if you want to review it, have any questions, just a little preview because I'm really excited. The SAS letter that gets attached at the beginning that tells you all the things you do wrong has 0 deficiencies. Everything that had been previously identified is corrected. So next weekend will be it. Next week will be a huge shout out to Tammy and Laurie for all that they do. All the deficiencies have been cured. And this is especially important because this was our first time with this new auditor. And usually when you have the first time, they're looking at different things and everything else, and they like the way we're doing everything. So I know I was so proud when I was told when we had our meeting with them. So there's that. Announcement of next meeting at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, March 14th. Council will hold a regularly scheduled meeting.
May 14th.
Or May, did I say March?
You did.
May 14th.
You say it's Vems? You meant Lem's Fems.
Lem's Fems. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Yep.
Can I go back to the damage? Can we talk about that a little more?
Sure.
Thank you. It seems like in the past, when somebody does a lot of damage or a damage, they seem to get away with it. Let the insurance pay it, or, oh, I know them parents, he's a good boy, I hear all this stuff. Where are we at with this? Is there a chance we can recoup some of this money? Will these kids be?
If we can prove who did it, yes, we can, push that recoup our money, but.
We were determined to prosecute to the full extent of the law.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
We're even looking at, we're more than 3 involved.
Yes,
This is serious, we're taking it very serious, Frank.
yes,
I hope somebody needs to be made accountable
yes.
to show that this doesn't happen in the future. Now, you said Jake had caught some of them. How did he do that?
He happened to be there when they were trying to break into the building and heard them and saw them and went after them, and they went under the fence and.
Yeah, he backed out, called the police right away. There was an officer not too far away who responded immediately over there. But by the time that he and the officer got there, they were already scurrying under the fence, but they got to look at him. So, but that wasn't the time the damage was done. And
No,
that's
that was the second time.
we can't, I don't
We
want
don't
to say
have
too much, but
evidence for the first
we're
one.
working on gathering the evidence right now to determine who did the actual damage.
I'm glad you brought it up though, because I didn't have a clue that even happened. I often go up there and just park the pickup, and I want to see the improvements that's being done. I've seen the roller fence, I've seen the other piece of fence they put up. And when you first started out, the building is nothing. I couldn't understand where the thousands and thousands of money, but then you said the equipment was there. I didn't know that.
And there was very little equipment there, but everything that was there was damaged.
I really hate to hear it.
I know, so do I. When I got the text, I was like sick.
But thanks for bringing that out. I'll watch closely.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Kaufman, second by Councilperson Stahl, to adjourn at 8:38 p.m. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? And we're adjourned.
Thank you.